Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Transfer Portal Podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and I hope you guys enjoyed the week 0. We had some decent football, some mediocre football, some terrible football. Nebraska, I'm talking about you. Today, we will be reviewing each week 0 game, but first, we got two new hosts also joining me today. Two new guys to the Transfer Portal Podcast. We have Andrew Wilson, the Gopher, and we have Laieke Abibi, who freelance writer. Laieke, would you call yourself a freelance writer?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. So before we go into it, we're just gonna introduce each of you guys. Laieke, let's start off with you. How you doing today? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your writing experience, what you're doing here exactly. I'm not trying to sound like the guy from Office Space, but let's just try and get to know you a little bit better.
First of all, thank you for having me, Andrew. My name is Laieke Abibi. I've been writing about various different types of sports for, I want to say this is year 7, but mainly, at least recently, I've been doing a lot of work as a writer, as a photographer, on doing high school sports in the state I live in. I'm from North Carolina, and in terms of what I'm doing here on a great, soon to be great, well, great already, college football podcast. Just trying to see, as someone who loves college football, me, I just want chaos. That's really it. To be quite honest.
Sounds good, man. So let's go to the other Andrew. This is probably going to cause some confusion throughout the episode, so bear with us for right now. We're going to call him Other Andrew. Other Andrew, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are y'all doing today?
Doing good, man. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of what you do. Hate to be so blunt about it, but why you're here and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, hi, my name is Other Andrew. I've written about mainly football for the last 2 years now. I've gone from NFL draft to branching out into, NFL offseason stuff, college football, and that's what I'm here to do, is write about college football. I'll mainly be writing about the Gophers and my favorite draft prospects around the country. And yeah, just great to be a part of a great team of people who love the sport.
And specify with which university you went to again? Where are you going to?
Oh, well, I will start attending the University of Minnesota next week. So I hope you're ready for a great Gopher football season.
And that starts off Thursday against who?
It starts out against a good team. It's going to be a good game for one side. I think the highlight for Minnesota will be seeing new uniforms. I don't think anything else is going to be good for them. But you know what? I get to go watch Ohio State play. So that's what I'm taking from it.
You'll watch 2 of the best receivers in the country and Heisman hopeful at quarterback. There you go.
Yep.
And so let's go ahead and let's get into it. Speaking of the Big Ten, a Big Ten game, a Big Ten noon game. I think that's important to disclose here. So Big Ten noon game is what you think of, and the Big Ten noon game is what you got. We got Nebraska, Illinois. Obviously, me and Other Andrew are obviously Big Ten guys. Let's start with you, Andrew. Nebraska, Illinois. A lot to digest from that game. Wasn't exactly a pretty game, but it was straight up ugly for one of them. So give us your basic takeaways that you got from this game.
My basic takeaway is Nebraska is awful. I don't want to watch another Nebraska game. Scott Frost is the head coach. Adrian Martinez couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a football if he tried. He had one good throw in the first half, but the rest of the game he was not good throwing. I genuinely don't know what Cam Taylor-Britt was thinking on that safety. You catch a punt, you run backwards, then you throw the ball out of bounds when you're in the end zone. I don't know what's going through your head during that. Nebraska, I don't see Scott Frost surviving more than this season if this is how they continue to play. I think Adrian Martinez might need to consider the bench because there can't be much worse than him after his performance against the Fighting Illini. And yeah, going with Illinois, I thought Sikowski played pretty well, honestly, in the time that he played. 12 of 15, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, they didn't throw the ball a ton, but when they did, they were pretty efficient.
All right, Leica, let's go over to you. Your basic takeaway that you got from Illinois, Nebraska.
Well, pretty much, I feel the same way as other Andrew. As I agree with him saying that Nebraska just isn't good. I will say that I don't want to. I mean, it's kind of easy to put it all on Scott Frost. I just think Nebraska as a whole, like, has just not found a way out from ground zero. Like, I just don't think that they've really like found like a breakthrough in terms of like getting back to the relevancy that they once had when we were, all quite younger than we are now. Our Sikowski was quite a surprise for me after seeing him because he was at Rutgers, came to Illinois, and was really efficient with the football. Didn't turn the ball over, and that safety to start the season is very Big Ten football, if you ask me. Like Big Ten noon football. But overall, great start for Illinois. We'll see if this win can like jumpstart them going forward into the rest of their schedule.
It won't. Spoiler alert. But anyways, so I took quite a lot from this game. And, if you ever look at the metrics as far as like at this point of the game, they had X% chance of winning this game. Nebraska at one point had an 82% chance towards the middle of the second quarter. And then obviously the fumble by Calvin Hart to get the touchdown, which essentially put Illinois in full control of the game. In terms of what I saw with Nebraska, Scott Frost and all that, I just don't know if I've ever seen a team with such a lack of discipline as we saw today, because the game was winnable for Nebraska. It was very winnable for Nebraska if it just wasn't for the stupid mistakes, the fumbling, the throwing the ball out of bounds on the punt. I mean, what? The fact that Adrian Martinez got sacked 5 times, offensive linemen didn't know how to do their job. I swear, you could line up 5 turtles at the line of scrimmage, and they would all get to Adrian Martinez. I mean, Jesus Christ. But in terms of just everything that I saw with Nebraska, there is clearly a deeper issue here, and it's not just Scott Frost. Hopefully, by the time that this episode comes out, I did write an article on Nebraska, basically a letter to the university, to the football program in general, which could honestly also apply to their basketball program. Leave the Big Ten. I mean, and I'm honestly, there's obviously a knee-jerk reaction, probably an overreaction, but think about this. Nebraska was brought to the Big Ten to make the Big Ten a power conference, essentially. They were brought in so they could essentially make the Big Ten better than the Big 12, surpass the Pac-12, and on the same level as the SEC. They're 3-7 against their border rivals in Iowa. They're 1-8 against Wisconsin. They're 1-6 against Ohio State. They're 5-5 against Northwestern. They're 5-5 against Minnesota, and they're 2-2 against Michigan. And honestly, the 2-2 against Michigan, I don't even know if I'm very impressed by that, considering Michigan struggles over the same period of time. I just look at Nebraska and I'm like, what exactly are you doing here? What good have you brought to the conference up to this point within 10 years? Compared to what you were supposed to do 10 years later, I give you an easily a D-, and I don't know how you're not getting an F.
Yeah, I mean, when Scott Frost got hired at Nebraska, they were already just not doing well. And, the media's reaction was, oh, Scott Frost, he's going to be able to turn around that program and Nebraska is going to go back to their winning ways. And he really hasn't. I mean, Scott Frost, I'm pretty sure he has 12 wins in his tenure. That's just unacceptable for a school that was so prestigious back in the early 2000s. And now they're the laughing stock of the Big Ten. And as you said, they were brought into the Big Ten to bring it up those tiers of the other conferences. And now they're one of the worst schools in it. They're one of the worst programs. And I mean, I understand one man can't change an entire program overnight, but you've had a few years to do this and y'all still suck? Like, come on.
The sad part is I didn't even look up the records against the likes of Illinois. Actually, I think Illinois, they were like 7-3, something like that. I mean, which I still don't consider impressive. Might have been 6-4. It was one of the two. It was either 6-4 or 7-3. But the fact that now you've lost consecutive games to Illinois for the first time since what? Since like the 20s?
The 1920s, yeah.
And I just do not. And also, I remember they were showing like a graphic, and it was like lowest winning percentages in Nebraska's history. I don't even remember who was first and third, but I know that Frost was the second worst. The dudes that were first and third, they didn't even have colored pictures of them. That's how you know it's bad. I mean, first of all, that's one thing. But the thing with that I see though with Nebraska is that it's not going to be an overnight fix. That's the most important thing. One guy cannot turn it around. It is clearly an entire administration, an entire program issue, not just in terms of football, but in terms of basketball too. Their basketball team is not winning. Football team is sure as hell not winning. I think their last bowl win was the Foster Farms Bowl back in like 2015, 2016. I mean, come on, man. The Foster Farms Bowl. The last bowl you won was a bowl game for a company that makes turkeys. I mean, that was your last bowl win? And that was with Mike Riley when his first year as head coach.
That was year one of Mike Riley's tenure.
And they went and they were 5-7 going into that bowl game.
Yeah.
Also, I remember the first game in the Big Ten, they lost 48-17 to Wisconsin. They got killed 70-31 against Wisconsin, the 2012 Big Ten championship game, a championship game that Wisconsin wasn't even supposed to be in. They've only got one win against Ohio State, like I've said. You only won 3 of 10 games against Iowa. You're not even competing for the Big Ten West title. And whenever they realigned the Big Ten conference between West versus East, I looked at the West and I was like, Wisconsin's going to win this conference because Nebraska already solidified themselves at that point as one of the most mediocre teams in that division. But anyways, that's the thing with Nebraska is it's not just Scott Frost. Two things are obvious. A, he's not going to turn around. And that's okay. Because at this point, I don't think anyone's going to go into that program and turn it around. I just think it's just I think the Nebraska football program, it's a dinosaur. It's dead. It's a fossil. Okay. It's nothing more than just dug up and you find bones. That's what Nebraska is at this point. That's one thing. Does this mean Scott Frost is a bad coach? Hell no. I still think he's a very good coach. I just think he was in the worst possible situation. And even though he is considered Nebraska's favorite son, he clearly was not the right mentality job for it. And it's pretty obvious. I mean, he took a UCF team that went 0-12 in 2015, took over in 2016, and in 2 years, you turn it into a 12-0 team, and you beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl that year. He clearly has talent. He clearly knows how to coach. This, honestly, to me, says more about Nebraska than it does about Scott Frost. We also need to talk about what he said in his press conference earlier today. The fact that he threw half of the playbook away whenever they got to the line of scrimmage. Have you never seen Brett Bielema coach before, regardless if it was at Wisconsin or at Arkansas? Have you never seen a coach Bielema defense? You literally have to plan for that.
Yeah, I mean, when you have to, yeah, I mean, you said everything I was thinking of, but with the whole Scott Frost thing, I do agree. It's a Nebraska problem. Scott Frost is still a great coach. You can't put a fresh coat of paint on an old car and expect it to run like new. That's really all I got.
I mean, they're 12-21 in Scott Frost's tenure. I wouldn't say all of it is on Frost, but at the end of the day, Nebraska isn't getting results, and it's not getting any better. And especially in the Big Ten, where you got to win games to keep your job and all this. It's just a bad situation all the way around in Nebraska.
All right, let's go to the next game. UConn at Fresno State. Fresno State wins 45-0. As far as I'm concerned, this was one of the games that was the biggest waste of times. Fresno State went into this game being favored by 28, and they ended up covering by almost double. They won 45-0. UConn plays their first game since 2019, and it sure as hell looked like it. I'll let whoever wants to go first. You tell me your thoughts on the game.
As someone who has seen UConn on occasion as a ECU fan and alum twice, two-time alum, UConn has just struggled for the better part of a decade to reestablish their football program, and this was just the latest example. And Fresno State has been consistently a bowl team in recent years. So 45-0 in the first game in 2 years shouldn't be surprising to really anybody. I mean, their quarterback Hainer threw for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and it really just looked like UConn hadn't seen a football field in a while, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, watching UConn play football, I was getting mad talking about Nebraska. I don't even want to get into that side of UConn. I mean,
like watching paint dry.
Oh, it's worse. I'd rather watch paint dry because at least something could happen.
I've seen it with my own eyes. It's painful. It's painful.
Oh yeah, I don't know how people can watch that and think, oh, that was not a complete waste of my time. I mean, talking about Fresno State, because I don't even want to talk about UConn. Congratulations, Ronnie Rivers came the all-time leader in touchdowns for Fresno State. That's pretty cool. Fresno State actually had a pretty good run attack. They averaged like 5 yards a carry on 25 total carries, going alongside the 331 yards from Jake Hainer. Yeah, I mean, you can't really say anything about UConn positive. It's like it's impossible. You know they're a basketball school. At this point, I feel like they're just taking these games to get a little bit more money. They're not actually trying to do anything with the football program. Like, I really don't think UConn's going to go anywhere with football anytime in the future at all.
Be like the Idaho Vandals with their Kiwi Dome and all that, and go ahead and relocate to the FCS. At this point,
or a different country at this point.
I don't think they compete in FCS really.
Oh, they get slapped by like a good North Dakota State team.
They could easily, I don't know, they could probably go to freaking Canada. I mean, Canada's close enough as far as I'm concerned. How close is Nova Scotia to Connecticut? Leave your comments down below and tell us, all right? Because I'm not going to pull it up on Google Maps. Pretty much, I mean, let's just be honest. Jake Hainer, hell of a day, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 221 passer rating. Ronnie Rivers might as well be one of the most underrated players in the country. There's really nothing more to say to that. Like I said, Connecticut, go ahead, move to FCS, move to Canada, do one of both. Let's go to probably the better game of the week. I mean, really wasn't even that good anyways. Hawaii at UCLA. I'll go ahead and I'll get started on this one. Michigan football, you deserve nothing good to ever happen again in your life.
Oh no.
That's it. I mean, like, Zach Charbonnet did what he wanted to do. He did what he wanted to do against Hawaii. He got himself 3 touchdowns, 106 yards.
On 6 carries. He only had
6 carries.
Man scored every other carry. Like, that's just insane.
Yeah.
But we don't need to talk about this because on my game picks.
Well, you didn't pick a Hawaii, did you?
That's my own loss. We're not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about it, okay?
So, Hawaii, anybody that knew anything about Hawaii knew that they weren't even that good anyways. They were among the bottom of the Mountain West last year in terms of total defense. I know they had one of the worst rush defense in the Mountain West last year. Definitely showed it. UCLA, on the other hand, they show that they can run the ball. They show that they have a very efficient offensive line. They've shown that they have wide receivers that can create space, aggressive defense. the fact that Dorian Thompson Robinson didn't even have that good of a game, 10 for 20, 50% completion, 130 yards and one touchdown, 6.5 yards per attempt, which is honestly really low for a Pac-12 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And for UCLA to still win like that, they could be a team to watch for in the Pac-12 South.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if they keep up that potent rushing offense, and I mean that offensive line was something to watch yesterday. Like I think they proved that they could have multiple NFL caliber linemen on that team. Watching, you had Charbonnet get 3 touchdowns on 6 carries, and another good running back on that team, Brown. They combined for 19 carries, 184 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Like I know you already said Hawaii's run defense is awful. They averaged almost 10 yards a carry. That is putrid.
I remember one of the drives I was watching, and it was like 1st and 10, 10-yard game. 1st and 10, they passed it for like a 12-yard gain. It was like 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards. And I was just like, fire the defensive coordinator at this point. I don't give a damn. If you can have like 5 or 6 consecutive 10-yard, 10-plus yard plays from rushes, you don't deserve to have a job. It's honestly that simple.
Yeah, I think the only like bad thing you can take away from the UCLA game from the Bruins side, besides the fact that no one wanted to go to the Rose Bowl to watch that team, is Dorian Thompson Robinson's got to play better. Like I understand he's not there because he's like the best pocket passer. He's a guy that's going to be able to run the ball, but 10 to 20 and 130 yards, that's not going to cut it most of the time. Like you got lucky because you had that type of a performance against Hawaii. What happens when you're going to play like a competent defense like a Washington? You're going to get slapped. It's something that you got to cut those types. Oh, they do play LSU next week. That's going to be a
LSU did have the worst defense in the ACC last year.
Yeah, but they also didn't have Stingley, and I think he's going to help a lot. Not saying that he's going to like turn them into the best, but
we'll see. Just stay away from him. Just stay away from Eli Rickers. Pretty simple. Yeah. Attack their linebackers. That's what you get. That's what you got to do. So these next 2 games, I'm going to go ahead and just be honest with y'all. I don't give a damn. I mean, UTEP's terrible. New Mexico State is even worse than terrible. That's why UTEP won 30-3. And the fact that UTEP went into this game as a 10-point favorite, and from my understanding, 10 points is the 4th highest point total that they've ever been favored by.
Yeah.
And you win by 27. I mean, do we really need to go on about this game?
That's a red flag all day, every day.
Yeah, I mean, New Mexico State is awful, but at least you can't say UTEP is like only Aaron Jones U. Like I feel like Jacob Cowing, he had a great game. He had like 10 or like 5 receptions for like 158 yards and a touchdown. One of the best offensive players we saw on Saturday. And some of the catches he made were actually pretty good. He got great separation. I mean, not saying that New Mexico State has like lockdown defense, but he performed very well. So
if I recall correctly, I don't even think that they returned a single starter from 2019, at least on the offensive side. It was something insane. I mean, I really wouldn't know because I really don't give a damn about New Mexico State. That's another team that alongside UConn, just go ahead and just go to the FCS already. Go check to see if Mexico has a college football league. All right. I know that they have a football league of some sort. Just go to it.
Yeah. I mean, Jonah Johnson, their quarterback, went 8 for 24, 82 yards, and he had a fumble lost. Like that's horrendous.
Should we go ahead and just close out with the next Starkle show?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we could just go to that.
So I do think he put up the best offensive performance. I mean, he was the transfer portal's offensive player of the week, and for good reason, too. I mean, the man had 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Fun fact about Nick Starkle. He was in the same recruiting class as Shea Patterson, A.M. Book. He was in the same class as
Buechele.
Bushell, Jalen Hurts. I'm gonna, you know what? Hang on a second. I'm gonna look this up real quick.
That was an insane stat. Just seeing all those different quarterbacks, like it's tough to think that they were all in the same recruiting class.
Okay, so I actually have it right here. So I said this was 2016. Let me go to 2016 real quick. 2016 quarterback rankings. So for those that do not know, Nick Starkel was in the same recruiting class as Shea Patterson, Jacob Eason, Brandon Peters, Dwayne Haskins, Felipe Franks, KJ Costello, Jalen Hurts, Jarek Guarantano. I almost said Guantanamo. Skylar Thompson for Kansas State. Shane Bushell, like I've already established. Ian Book, like I've already established. Jamie Newman, Georgia legend, by the way.
My God.
And, oh, I don't even think I mentioned this name before. Justin Herbert was part of that recruiting class.
That's right. I forgot. He was 16, right? 16.
I forgot what he was, but like how old he was.
Like, yo, go ahead.
I was just gonna say he wasn't even a nationally ranked player when coming out of high school. Like literally, it says here like on national. It just says NA. That's it.
Wow. Always those hidden gems somewhere.
Yeah.
And like I said, Nick Starkel was part of it too.
Yep. They got a big step up next week. They're going to USC, I believe. Next week 2. We'll see.
So, are we officially done with our week 0 review?
I mean, I don't think there's anything else we need to cover with that game. It was the Nick Starkel show. Southern Utah didn't really show us anything.
I mean, it was an FCS school. So,
yeah.
So if you listen to our last episode, we did a Mount Rushmore of the worst mascots of college football. I got a lot of hate for it because I included Otto the Orange.
And Goldie Gopher.
Well, yeah, but the Goldie Gopher one's a little bit more personal, you know. But
yeah.
But I got a lot of hate for Otto the Orange. I mean, come on. Am I really that terrible of a person for thinking that Otto the Orange is not a good mascot?
I mean, I think it's funny. I don't think it's good. Like, it's not something I'm afraid of. It's not like a wildcat or a tiger. I'm not afraid of a citrus fruit.
Are you afraid of a tree?
That was a gem from last week. I listened to that. That was one of the best things I ever.
Yeah.
Who the hell fears a tree?
It's true. I mean, it's true. I have never walked outside and thought to myself, okay, I'm scared of a tree. Also, the only time that I probably have ever been scared of a tree was when I was playing Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and like towards the beginning, Link has to like go inside this giant mystical tree. I have probably been more scared of trees at that moment than I ever have at any point in my personal life.
With the Stanford tree.
Also, the fact that like, have you guys ever played NCAA football 14 with like with the mascot
mode? Yeah.
Yes.
Those are backflips.
The backflips, but like whenever you played with the Stanford tree, the trees didn't even have arms. So literally, whenever they caught a football, it literally just went into their branches.
Yeah, if someone told me I should rename my college mascot a tree, I would just leave.
Oh, it's just a Big Red on that pot. I mean, he wasn't one of my picks, but he was in my dishonorable mentions. Like, guys, I mean, Big Red. He's a giant red blob. I mean, what these dudes that designed him over at Eastern Kentucky clearly had too much bourbon whenever they designed this dude. I mean, that's literally it. So, anyway, so we're getting a little bit off. So, today's Mount Rushmore is out-of-conference games of the season. So, relatively simple. We've already got our order set. Andrew Wilson's going to go first. I'm going to go second. Laike's going to go next. We're going to go in a snake draft. We all have a draft queue of the out-of-conference games that we're really looking forward to for this season. So, are you guys ready for this? We already know how it all works.
Yep, I know who I'm picking.
All right, cool. So, Andrew, go for it. You got first pick. Tell us your number one out-of-conference game of the season.
All right. Well, I'm going to get the George Washington of my Mount Rushmore. I'm going to get the best out of conference game. That's going to be Georgia versus Clemson. Two of the best teams in the country. I really like Georgia's defense. I'm really excited to see a full season of, I'm going to mess up his name, DJ Ungalele. I think he's going to have a good season for the Tigers, but I think that's going to be a really good game. I do think the Bulldogs will win, though.
All right, cool. So that makes me next. I got the next pick. So my number one pick of the season, it's going to be week 4. And that is obviously it's going to be a little bit biased, but it's a game that I really looking forward to. And I've been looking forward to this game for years. It's going to be the Wisconsin Notre Dame game. This is essentially a homecoming for Jack Cohn for Notre Dame. This is probably Wisconsin's biggest out of conference game, probably since LSU in 2016. Wisconsin wasn't even ranked going into that game. This time they're both going ranked. Notre Dame coming off of a playoff appearance, getting killed by Alabama. Also, losing a ton of talent. Wisconsin essentially brings back everybody on defense. They bring up the vast majority of their offense. So it's really going to be interesting is can Wisconsin pull up against an out-of-conference opponent such as Notre Dame. Also, by the way, being played at Soldier Field. So this is essentially a really good spot for both Wisconsin and Notre Dame fan bases. I'm expecting it to be a primarily evenly matched fan section. I'm really excited because I think whoever wins this game is going to have the best resume and the best record going into bowl season.
With my first pick, I'm gonna stick with week 1, and I'm gonna go with Alabama and Miami, just so I can kind of say like it's kind of a battle of new look teams, but still teams. Obviously, Alabama coming off a national championship with a new quarterback, Bryce Young, who's been kind of polarizing with this whole name, image, likeness thing. Now he gets to go on the field and show his stuff. And for Miami, of course, De'Aaron King is the former Houston quarterback, is going to be a big part of that new Hurricanes program. Big ranked matchup in week 1 in the second window. And I think there could be some, sort of another opening statement of sorts potentially for Alabama to make maybe another run. Who knows? Oh, I got since it's a snake draft, I got a second pick as well. I'm gonna go. I had like 2 choices for this one. Like I had three games that I was looking at. That was the first one. And the other one is now that UCLA did get this good statement win to start over Hawaii, and see if they can maybe step up against LSU this week as well. That was going to be my second one. So pick 4, pick one for sure.
So you're going with Miami, Alabama, and LSU, UCLA for your 2 picks, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, sounds good. So that goes back to me. So I'm currently looking at my schedule right here in terms of the games that I picked. And I feel like you guys just put this game right in front of my lap. I'm going to go with Oregon at Ohio State. So that game I'm really looking forward to for a lot of reasons. This is going to be a bit of a new-look Oregon team. Obviously, they had a quarterback controversy that's been since resolved. Oregon has a chance to have an absolutely nasty defense. Kayvon Thibodeau is probably the best defensive player in the country going into this season. And Oregon's probably going to have the best Pac-12 defense, in my opinion, right in front of Washington, while Ohio State, for me, is going to have the most explosive offense in college football this season. They're going to have 2 of the 3 best wide receivers in college football. They have a very good selection of running backs that are led by Master Teague III. CJ Stroud, redshirt freshman, he's probably going to go in there, and he's going to look to absolutely light up the college football world on fire. Ryan Day with his aggressive playing calling, I'm expecting a very aggressive game plan from him. This is going to be at the shoot. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think Ohio State's going to win this game, but this will absolutely be brought up in conversation come playoff selection time for both teams, to be honest with you. If Oregon wants to make the playoff, I'm not saying that they actually have to win this game, but they at least have to show fight in this game. they lose this one game, and even if they sweep the table in the Pac-12, I just don't know if it's going to be enough for them to make a playoff push.
Yeah, that's a good game. Luckily, I got one of my favorite games up next since I have the next two picks. I'm going to take Cincinnati and Notre Dame. Last year, Cincinnati had, in my opinion, the best group of five team who some people thought should have made the playoff. And then you had a Notre Dame team who lost Ian Book, lost a decent amount of talent, and they made the playoff. Some people said Cincinnati should have made it over Notre Dame. This is Cincinnati's chance to say, hey, you messed up last year. We are the better team. Desmond Ritter's coming back. He's going to have a good season. And this is the chance for Cincinnati to show they should have been in the playoff over Notre Dame. And on the flip side, I'm going to go with an in-state rivalry that a lot of people in the Midwest really like watching. Iowa at Iowa State. That is a interesting game. Iowa State was one of the best teams to watch last year, in my opinion. You had Brees Hall, and that Iowa State team was just so good. Usually you're used to seeing Iowa State just not that good, but they were the second best team in the Big 12 last year. Iowa always produces good products, whether it's on the offensive line or the defensive line or just defense in general. I think that's going to be a good game. It's at Iowa State, so I'm probably going to give the edge to Iowa State. I do think they are the better team in the end, but that's going to be a really fun game to watch.
I feel like this is the absolute perfect game in terms of like the ground and pound game that you really want to see between these two. This is Iowa's identity. This is the type of game that they will absolutely try to feast off of. And Iowa, they were Iowa State's bogey team. And it just always seems to be the case for them. I'm not saying that they always beat them. I'm saying that they always keep it close and competitive enough to a point where they can help derail Iowa State's season. This is another very important game for Iowa State. This is important for Iowa. This is going to be important for Iowa in terms of how does this affect their public image. Can Iowa take that next step? Can they overtake Wisconsin? Can they overtake Northwestern, the Big Ten West? Are they looking to battle to get into a good bowl this season? And even for Iowa State, if Iowa State wants to make a push for the playoff, which they absolutely have the talent to do so, if they can overcome Oklahoma, and they play them both regular season, and they're probably going to play them again in the Big 12 championship game. This is going to be an important game for both teams, and I feel like there's just more on the table for both teams this season than it has in seasons past. So my next game, I'm going to be honest with you, I am going to be biased. I am going to pick a homer game, and it's a game that's been pretty entertaining. It's been pretty entertaining over the last couple times that they played each other. I'm going with U of H at Texas Tech. Well, it's not at Texas Tech, but it's at Energy Stadium here in Houston. This is going to be great. I'm really excited. Got my ticket already. I'm excited. Going to be next to the student section right in front of the band, and it's going to be crazy. I'm gonna love it. This is going to be the classic Texas shootout that a lot of people love to think about. I believe the over/under on this game is at like 68. I believe it is. They're expecting it to be very high scoring. Clayton Tune, this is a huge season for him. This could be, I believe his season that he can have this year can make or break his reputation at U of H. Texas Tech, there's really a huge amount of question marks on Texas Tech right now. They don't bring back a lot of strength from last year. This is going to be a really young defense. This is going to be another team that's going to be heavily relying on its offense this year. I am just purposely, even though it's really not going to mean much in the long run, this is just a game for me that I really like because I just think it's going to bring that extra entertainment value. And for me, it's probably the most underrated game of week one.
I'm going to go with, for my next pick, I know Andrew Wilson picked a Cincinnati game to start, and I'm also going to pick one too. But I also want to, never mind. I wasn't going to preface it. Before that game against Notre Dame, they're going to play Indiana as well, and Indiana is returning Michael Penix Jr., who got hurt late in last year. They had that lone loss to Ohio State, which they tried to make a furious rally. Had a really good season, and they're trying to, build off of that. And maybe they can make a statement themselves against the best Group of Five team that's ranked in this in this opening bowl. And then And then I'm gonna go with let's see. I had one. I can't find it. My fault. Oh yeah, it was Louisiana versus Texas, week 1. It should be the late window. I think that's another game where it's like a mid-major versus a uh, uh, high major brand name program, so to speak. I wouldn't say Texas is like on that upper echelon, but they're still trying to work their way back. And I think that could be a sneaky good game as well. And Louisiana is also ranked too, so they could be in the group of 5 conversation as well.
Really big game for both sides because right now Texas is in a situation where with first-year head coach Steve Sarkisian, they're obviously going to be looking to try and build up a new reputation. They've obviously – I'm not saying it's as bad as Nebraska, but you got to think about the fact
They're
that
at least a ranked program. I mean, it's not
they're ranked. They at least show that they can –
they at least win.
they can win. They can make it. They've at least made a New Year's Six bowl. They've at least shown that, but I feel like there's just still this scrutiny surrounding the city of Austin that they just have to get back on that New Year's Six level every year. They have to beat Oklahoma. They have to, they have to compete for playoff. They have to make the Big 12 championship. They have to win conference championships. And that's why you join the same conference as LSU and Alabama. So, yeah, that's great how all this works. So that goes back to me now. And, oh, man, this is actually kind of hard because I feel – I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take a G5 matchup for that kicks off the start of the season. I'm gonna go with, and actually starts on Thursday, I believe. Boise State UCF.
Ooh, good pick.
So these are 2 teams that I think they're going to both try. Boise State's obviously going to try and aim for the Mountain West. UCF trying to obviously come out of the AAC. UCF is probably the closest in terms of competitiveness to Cincinnati. Their closest competition in terms of winning the AAC and possibly getting into a New Year's Six bowl. Boise State, I feel like there's a lot of mystery unraveling them this year. We don't know, is this going to be the same Boise State that can light up the scoreboard? Can they absolutely plummet everyone that is within their path? I am really looking forward to seeing Boise State this year in terms of what they can do. UCF, they had the best offense in FBS last year. I believe they put up almost 600 yards per game. This is a very explosive offense. Boise State did put up a stout defense. The winner of this game will probably have the best chance to try and run the table the rest of the year. Maybe go 11-1, maybe 10-2. And try and reach that New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah, that's probably the best group of 5 game this season, and it does kick off on Thursday. So I'm gonna finish us off here, and there's honestly a few ways. There's a few games I could go with. I could just laugh and say Nebraska at OU because I think OU is gonna win by 100. But I'm actually gonna go with Liberty at Ole Miss, the return of Hugh Freeze. It's been a few years since he's been there, but I think Liberty has a good team led by quarterback Malik Willis, one of the better, if not one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. And Ole Miss has a very talented quarterback too in Matt Corral. I think that's going to be a good game, and it's just going to be funny to see. Not funny, but it's going to be nice to see Hugh Freeze back at Ole Miss.
And if you're the gambling type going into that game, take the over. It's probably what week is that game?
I have no clue, to be honest. I can check that real quick.
You made the pick and you don't even know what week it is?
No. I literally just it's November 6th.
November 6th. Okay, so this is technically that one of those weeks where SEC teams try to schedule cupcakes so that they can get ready for rivalry week.
Yeah.
The infamous week 11-12 cupcake game before they play, Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl.
So
that's not a cupcake.
So let's go over here. I'm going to go with each person's individual Mount Rushmore so far. So for Andrew Wilson, I have Georgia Clemson. Let's be honest, was about as obvious of a first round pick as Andrew Luck in the 2012 NFL draft. He had Cincinnati at Notre Dame, which could honestly have huge impacts down the season. This will, if Cincinnati wins that game, and if they can take care of business the rest of the season, as far as I'm concerned, New Year's Six lock.
Yeah.
Then he had Iowa at Iowa State. We've already discussed that. And then Liberty at Ole Miss.
Yep.
Like it. Laieke, let's go over to you. So you had Alabama, Miami, UCLA, LSU, Cincinnati at Indiana. Another huge game for Cincinnati. See, what the hell is up with Cincinnati, man? Where do they
That's
get all these-
back-to-back weeks. That's the week before they play that's the game before they play Notre Dame.
What the hell is
Actually,
with Cincinnati?
they have a bye after that Indiana game. Then they play Notre Dame.
See, here's my concern with Cincinnati. I know we're not talking. I know this is not a Cincinnati episode, but let's just talk about Cincinnati just for a quick second here. Something before you absolutely lock up Cincinnati to win the G5 spot in the New Year's Six Bowl at Indiana, and then at Notre Dame, which is actually 2 weeks later because they have a bye week between those two. They have to play UCF on October 16th.
They have to play ECU on November 27th.
Yeah, we're gonna forget that. And probably one of the more underrated games for the season for me is when Cincinnati has to play SMU. SMU's offense being led by Tanner Mordecai for the season, with Rashee Rice at wide receiver. These guys, Ulysses Brantley, this SMU offense has a chance to be nasty this year.
I agree.
And if they face Cincinnati, and if those two are in contention for the AAC title game, to reach the AAC title game, that's going to be the one to watch. We'll see whenever that gets here. Cincinnati probably has the best defense in terms of group of 5 teams. SMU might very well have the best offense.
I put them as a dark horse in my AAC picks. SMU. They could be explosive.
So for those that watched the stream with me and Liam last week, I said, go to your local sports book, look up futures, and take SMU to reach the AAC title game. Not win it, just reach it. If SMU just reaches the AAC title game, your odds are at plus 600. You know what that means? It means you're going to win 6 times what you bet. You're not even betting it because of the odds. You're betting it because of the value. You're not betting it because you think it's going to happen. But this is a really, really – I think this is going to be a scary season for SMU. And then for me to finish up my Mount Rushmore, I've picked Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Oregon at Ohio State, UH, Texas Tech, and then Boise State, UCF. Personally, whenever I was writing down my list for the best out-of-conference game for the season, I was a little unsure, but looking over this whole list that we have 12 listed. There's a lot of good games here, and there's going to be a lot of good playoff implications for the season.
Yeah.
So, guys, we went over week 0. We had our rants on Nebraska. We've had our talk on UConn and New Mexico State. We've had our Mount Rushmore. What more do we need to cover?
No, I just kind of want to add on to what you were talking about with SMU. They're also getting Reggie Roberson back from a knee injury, and I think he's going to be explosive for that offense. So just another piece for that team.
And I would also add they're going to go to TCU and to Houston and to Memphis. So Memphis could be another player in the AAC like they've been in recent years as well.
And I might be going to that Houston SMU game also. So I am excited for that game because I think Houston's defense, Houston might have one of the sneakiest good defenses in the AAC this year. I believe they returned 8 starters from last season. I spoke to Latrell Bankston, for those that heard the interview. He's really excited in terms of what the defense could bring for U of H this year. So, yeah, I mean, I think we got a great season ahead of us. We're really excited. We got week 1 coming this weekend. Guys, I'm going to be gambling probably more than I should. But it's going to be all in good fun. All right, it's going to be all good fun. By the time this comes out, guys, Wednesday, me and Liam are going to be doing another stream in terms of our gambling picks for the Thursday and Friday night games. And then Friday night, we will be doing another one on the Saturday games. and possibly Sunday and Monday. So we'll get to that. Guys, anything that you guys want to say before we officially close this out?
I just want to say it was a great time, great talks about college football, and yeah, we all hate Nebraska here.
Watch out for my piece in terms of me telling Nebraska to leave the Big Ten. All right, go to the Big 12 after Oklahoma and Texas leave.
I was going to say it's been a pleasure talking to both of you, and I am excited for this college football season. I'm probably I mentioned ECU a couple times, but I felt like this was a great episode, and there's going to be more good stuff with the transfer portal, and it's going to be fun times ahead. College football is officially back.
All right, guys. Andrew, Laieke, thank you so much for joining today. You guys have a great rest of your night, and enjoy the season.
You too.